Hello everyone, welcome back to one of these videos after 2 goddamn years. We skipped doing these last year because, they take a lot of time and I was fucking busy, yeah shits. But today we're kicking off potentially the series of videos. I'm kind of going to speed run this one because I don't know how good the audio is going to be, how good the video quality is going to be. I have no fucking idea. My old phone was awesome for recording. This one kind of sucks for it though. So I'm just kind of seeing how this goes. For this first video, and I'm not really going as in-depth, so if you're wondering why there's not, as many recommendations or anything, that's why. But for this one, it's going to be the start bench recommendations and the free agency advice video. Figured I'd kick off the league with that, and then if this goes well, maybe I'll do, a matchup of the week or something like that on one of the upcoming days. But without further ado, let's get right into it. For the start bench recommendations, I'm going to go ahead and skip the entire, basically, SEC division. I didn't really think there was much that they could change. You have guys like me and Tack who are loaded with our starters, but our backups are kind of just depth at this point. And David just has 35 wide receiver ones, so there's not really much he can do. Same with Milf. So let's just skip down to Rogers, a.k.a. B-Man. The first recommendation I have for him is to start Trayvon Henderson and to bench Matthew Golden. I love Matthew Golden. I've been all about him this whole season. He's been one of my sleeper picks. But it is going to be the first game into the NFL. And traditionally, rookie wide receivers have a slow start. And traditionally, the Lions actually play pretty well against the Packers. So overall, I don't think I like the idea of starting Golden just yet. I think if anyone's going to do well in that game, it's going to be Jaden Reed. The Lions have been known to struggle against slot receivers. So if Reed's healthy and goes out there and plays, I think he'll actually have a good performance. Trayvon Henderson, on the other hand, is going up against the fucking Raiders. They have Max Crosby. They have Jeremy Chin. There is not another motherfucker on that team who actually plans on playing defense in that game. I can almost guarantee you if Trayvon Henderson actually gets to play like everyone thinks he is, that he is going to ball out for that first game this season, especially with Stephon Diggs currently dealing with an injury. I don't imagine they do too much passing right off the get-go. So, if I'm B-Man, I'm definitely starting Trayvon Henderson at least week 1 over Matthew Golden, and I'm also starting Peyton Wilson over Carl Granderson. Going down to your defense, so yeah, I'm starting Peyton Wilson over Carl Granderson, so the reason being, Carl Granderson was very inconsistent last year. Sometimes he just downright did nothing, and I think he's overall startable as a defensive lineman. But as you guys, maybe not the newer players, know by now, that linebackers almost always traditionally outscore defensive linemen unless it's like fucking Max Crosby or T.J. Watt. And Peyton Wilson might have only scored 158 points last year compared to Carl Granderson with his 165. But what you need to consider is the fact that last year he had guys like Cool Holcomb actively playing in front of him and only got to start later in the season. This year, Peyton Wilson is the clear linebacker too, and actively could just be playing side by side with Patrick Queen throughout the season in terms of racking up stats. I think the odds say that he's probably going to get more points than Carl Granderson for B-Man as well. Then moving over to Geno. Geno's entire defense is a mess, so I didn't really even cover that. But the big advice I have for you is to bench Rashee Rice, who's not even going to be playing. He's suspended for committing Grand Theft Auto. And I would probably say put in Bryce Young. Most of your bench isn't really that great, but Bryce Young is at least a starting quarterback who is probably bound to outscore Rashee Rice, who has zero fucking chance of getting points. Next up, we'll look at Jay Jettis, a.k.a. Cab. So for you, as Tax might know, I've been a Josh Metellus hater for 2 years straight. But, I mean, they lost Cam Bynum. I do think this is a very good chance, especially with how old Harrison Smith is, for the Vikings to go out there and start using Josh Metellus a bit more this season. Kind of what I think Tack was hoping for in the seasons prior, and even then he did put up 189 points, which, I mean, I think me and Tack can both be right. It's just about timing. Because he had 189 points, which is respectable in fantasy, but it's really nothing special as a DB. But now they don't have Bynum, so I think he's locked into that permanent safety role, and I actually think Tack's theory could very well be correct this year, and this guy could be a very sneaky safety pick this season in particular. But anyway, I have Cab starting him over Malachi Starks, who is the rookie safety for Baltimore. Even if Malachi Starks plays great, even if the Ravens play great, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really guarantee to correlate to fantasy. Rookie safeties could just go out there, do really well, do their job perfectly, and get nothing in fantasy. Until we know Malachi Starks' official role in this offense, I would probably go ahead and take the safe bet with a guy like Josh Metellus. Even if he doesn't have a breakout game, I think at least he's going to get a consistent around 10 points. So I think that's a good idea for Cab to do. Next up, I have Neighbors in Paris, a.k.a. Wee. For him, this might be a controversial one. I have him benching Deebo Samuel for Cedric Tillman. This is probably like one of the most hot take things I can say. But I mean, hear me out. Cedric Tillman, for the same reasons as Jerry Jeudy last year, upon them getting rid of Amari Cooper, did pretty damn well in fantasy and was actually like a pretty consistent flex. Do I think he's going to do as good as that? No, but he's against Cincinnati's defense, who literally made guys like Tanner McGee and fucking Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think, in the preseason look like prime Peyton Manning and Brett Favre. So at the end of the day, I do think even if the Browns' offense sucks, I think the Bengals are going to make them look a lot better than they are. And on top of that, they don't know what the fuck's going on with their running game right now. Could be Dylan Sampson, Quinton Dudkins obviously isn't going to be playing yet. Could be Jerome Ford. Like, the Browns are a whole team of we don't know what the fuck is going on, and neither do you. But, I mean, in terms of their receiving, I think Tillman will have a good game against this shitty-ass Bengals defense. Compared to Deebo Samuel, who shows up to camp out of shape, is terrible in the preseason, is terrible in training camp, is dropping shit left and right. I actively believe this guy is a nuisance to the Commanders. I personally just don't think he's going to be great. He's against the Giants defense that has been going out of their way to ramp up their defense with defensive linemen that are going to be putting pressure on Daniels all day. Keep in mind, Daniels might be great, but you got to keep in mind they're going to be out Sam Cosmi and against Dexter Lawrence. I think naturally this whole offense is going to be really struggling throughout the course of the day. And I think until we see any proof that Deebo's actually going to be decent, I think starting him is rather silly. I honestly think there's a better chance of Tillman outperforming him than there is of Deebo Samuel doing well this week in particular. Then the last one we have, this is another kind of controversial one, but it's not too out of the park. It's for Zach, a.k.a. Certified Real Najigba. Changed his name from Najigba's in Paris. Thank God. So I only have one suggestion for you, and that is that you bench Tucker Kraft and start Kyle Pitts this 1 week in particular. Normally I'm not going to recommend this, but I do think Kyle Pitts has a really good matchup here. As I mentioned earlier, the Packers traditionally struggle against the Lions, so I do think this might be one of the slightly worse games for everyone on the offense. I don't think it's going to affect Tucker Kraft too much in particular. He usually gets about 4 catches or so against Detroit. But the reason Kyle Pitts is appealing here is, as me and Tack have talked about multiple times, whether it was in the chats or just talking to each other about it, the Buccaneers' defense, specifically their linebackers, are terrible. Their coverage is horrendous. They commit too much to the run and can't tackle for shit when they do. So a speedy tight end like Kyle Pitts just eats against them. Last season, you actually saw Kyle Pitts. I can't really look at the stats here because, all I can get is kind of just looking at his general last season stats. But of his 47 catches for 602 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, in his 2 games against the Bucks, 11 of those catches were just from the 2 games against the Buccaneers alone. In those 2 games that he played, he also had 88 yards and 91 yards, and in one of the games he had 2 touchdowns. So just to clarify there, that's 7 catches on 8 targets for 88 yards, 4 catches for 5 yards, or 4 catches for 5 attempts on 91 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the second game. Kyle Pitts literally dominates the Bucs. Usually it's pretty consistent too. If there's any time to start Kyle Pitts, it's against Tampa Bay. That goes for most tight ends in general. Tampa Bay is terrible against tight ends. Alrighty. Now we look at the free agency stuff. Now, the free agency stuff probably won't be that high of quality because right now we're kind of just guessing. because obviously the season hasn't started and it's hard to see what's actually happening until teams play. All we've seen is the preseason. So without further ado, let's get into the free agency part of this. Quarterbacks, first pick is Tua. Yeah, dude has mashed potato brain. Yeah, the entire offense is injury prone. Yeah, everyone thinks their coach is a pushover. Yeah, there's a million bad things you can say. But, I mean, he's against the Colts. Their defense is pretty ass. This is Tua who, yeah, has had 37 concussions. But at the end of the day, your brain bleeding a little bit isn't going to stop you from throwing the ball good. Just ask Ryan Cushing. But with that being said, I do genuinely wonder how Tua is still a free agent. Like, there's some teams that have guys like Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Ward. I just genuinely don't know how you can keep those players and ignore a guy like Tua, who at the end of the day might not be great and might be injury prone. But at the end of the day, he has Tyreek Hill, he has Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle. They have a stacked team across the board in terms of potential upside. And I do think Tua is just the clear best quarterback option on free agency. And in a very similar situation, you have Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Smith. Devontae Adams. And in general, you have Sean McVay, who's an excellent coach, always has been. Matthew Stafford has been pretty solid in the past, 264 points last year specifically. But, I mean, these are two quarterbacks that you could easily go out there and start each week, and I think he's genuinely better than a lot of the team's quarterbacks in the league at this current point. I'm very surprised to see that they're out there just for the receiving upside they have alone. Or not receiving upside, but the wide receiver upside they have alone. Looking at running backs, the first choice I have is Kareem Hunt. I had Isaiah Pacheco, and I do think Pacheco is going to heal up and do a lot better this year. But, I mean, he's still very injury prone. And I do think that there's a very strong chance that at some point Kareem Hunt could, even if it's just for a couple games, go out there and play in place of Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe it's going to be Rashard Smith. But for now, it seems like Kareem Hunt is the running back 2 on their roster. And just in general, if Pacheco ever did go down, which is a very, very real possibility, I think Kareem Hunt would be a very nice handcuff to have. And he might even play a little bit in between the games, so he's not a complete zero each week. Then we look at Dameon Pierce. Until Joe Mixon returns, the Texans are literally going to be Nick Chubb on one leg, which, I'm sorry, I just don't know how that works out. I genuinely cannot think of a situation where Nick Chubb is going to be able to play as a good power back on one leg. Like, it's just not something that normally works, especially for running back positions, let alone ones that operate their entire play style around getting hit. So, I mean, I really think Dameon Pierce could end up even outplaying Nick Chubb, if for no other reason other than Nick Chubb is just doing so badly that he just gets benched. Which is kind of crazy to say. Just 2 years ago he was an elite running back, but I mean, dude is just too fucked up. You can't have a power back on one fucking leg at the end of the day, and I think Dameon Pierce easily could go in there and just take over his place and actually be startable. Looking at receivers, I would have gone with Coker, but he just got put on the IR list, so now I'm going to go with Xavier Legette. Wide receiver 2 on the Panthers. I don't really expect too much from Legette, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is now a Panthers team that has Ted McMillan drawing coverage a little bit. It might make Xavier Legette's job easier. And you never know, maybe Bryce Young actually has a wake-up season, kind of like he did at the second half of last year. I think compared to the rest of the stuff on free agency that we know of right now, Legette is probably the safest bet. And then my second pick is Tyler Lockett. I think this is a situation where whether Cam Ward does really good or bad, that could help or hurt Tyler Lockett's situation a bit. But at the end of the day, Calvin Ridley, you really need to ask yourself, is he really a wide receiver 1 that can act as a wide receiver 1, let alone hold the job, not get hurt, or just downright get benched? Because the answer to that is no. Tyler Lockett might not be a great receiver at this point. He might be old as shit. But at the end of the day, throughout his career, he's never been a bad player. He's always been consistent. And I think Cam Ward, as a rookie, is going to be looking for someone that he can actually rely on consistently. And I could easily see that player being Tyler Lockett. And I could actually see Tyler Lockett maybe even outplaying Calvin Ridley for what little that's probably going to be worth this season. Of course, I could be wrong, but this is just kind of a hot take I have. Looking at tight ends, in terms of the tight ends that are out there really suck right now. Like, I would not go out of my way to pick either of these guys up, but they're probably the best of what we have. So, first of all, we have Cade Otton. Tack thinks Igbuka, well, Tack and a lot of other people, including myself, think Igbuka is going to go out there and just ball out now that Godwin's gone. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Cade Otton is going to get some okay to solid usage just from the fact that Godwin is out alone. And yeah, Igbuka is going to fill in a lot of those roles, but I think it's still going to give a slight uptick to Cade Otton, and maybe, just maybe, less Rachaad White could also lead to more targets for Cade Otton in general. Then there's Brenton Strange for Jacksonville. Again, this is kind of a gamble pickup, but I mean, in the past when he's acted as tight end one for Evan Ingram, he usually didn't do shit. But you never know. At the end of the day, the Jaguars' entire scheme is still set up around having a decent tight end that can go out there and act as a third threat and keep defenses spread out. So, I mean, I think even if he sucks, if he goes to a scheme and does his job okay, he could be a surprise pickup, especially with touchdown upside. Looking at kickers. Looking at the kickers, the first pick I have is Will Reichard. Will Reichard, people are very, very quick to forget just how insanely good he was 2 seasons ago. As a kicker, I think he finished the best kicker in all of fantasy, if I remember correctly. And last year he only had 150 points, but I'm pretty sure that was due to an injury. And Sam Darnold just in general leading the offense to touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. I think odds are, even if you're a J.J. McCarthy fan, I think odds are this Minnesota team doesn't go, 13-4, 14-3, whatever it was last season. I don't think they're going to do that good. You have Jordan Addison out for the first couple games. You have the whole offense that's injury prone, and on top of that, there's the idea that J.J. McCarthy, even if he's not a complete bust, probably won't do as good as Sam Darnold did last year, who was damn near perfect. So, I mean, I think he's going to be kicking a shit ton of field goals, and I think he actually could be one of the best kickers in the league this year. Younghoe Koo, people are too easy to forget about Younghoe Koo. I think the number is 7 games, the final 7 games of last year in a row until they played the Cowboys. He actually had at least 2 field goal attempts per game, or 2 field goals made per game is what I should say, because I think he actually didn't miss any of them. So, I mean, Younghoe Koo, again, used to be a top kicker in fantasy. People forgot about him after the Kirk Cousins and the Falcons just started in general not kicking that many field goals, and Hoku was showing signs of inconsistency. But he picked it up at the end of last season, started doing a lot better, and I do think he could go back to being a top kicker in fantasy. I think people are too quick to forget about these kickers in fantasy just because of occasional bad years. Like, same with Daniel Carlson. You can honestly throw an argument up here for the fact that he was really good back when they had Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, but for now, I would hold off on him just because I think we should wait until we see how good Geno Smith and Ashton Genty actually make that offense. Plus, it's Pete Carroll, so, I mean, it could backfire and maybe the Raiders actually get more more touchdowns than field goals. Looking at defenses, again, these are 2 defenses that I would not pick up unless you're, like, desperate for one or just fucking around with one. San Fran would probably be my first pick for this week specifically. Yes, they're extremely banged up, and I mean, everyone on their fucking roster is dead. But at the end of the day, look at their competition they go against. Seattle with a brand new coaching staff, Sam Darnold that is gone, all of their top receivers, sure they brought in Cooper Kupp, but this is just a Seahawks offense that I think is in general going to be one of the worst offenses in the league this year. The whole coaching staff switching up, I don't imagine is going to transition as smoothly as people think it's going to. Then the 49ers draft Michael Williams. At the start of last year, a lot of people actually thought he would be one of the best players in the entire draft class over guys like Abdul Carter. Obviously, that didn't really pan out, but he's still a very, very good player, playing across from Nick Bosa, and it could make the defense actually receive some good help that they otherwise desperately needed last year. And like I said, just in general, look at that schedule. Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, Jaguars. Like, these are easy games for the first quarter of the season, and I think the 49ers could be a upset defense in terms of just really good schedule. For this week specifically, I think the Browns defense is going to be pretty good. Yeah, the Bengals offense is really good with their receivers, their quarterback, obviously. You guys know what the Bengals are at this point, but the Browns, they fucking own the Bengals. Just ask Darth, ask Gino. The Browns just bully the Bengals. Even if the Bengals get a lot of points, it's usually not without the Browns getting 45 sacks. They have Myles Garrett. They just brought in Mason Graham. So, I mean, this is just a defense that is going to get slightly better, I think. Not to mention they drafted, what's his name, Schlesinger as a middle linebacker. He's a pretty good linebacker in college. So this is a Browns defense that is slightly getting better. I think the only thing they're losing is the defensive end that used to play for the Packers. I'm forgetting his name, not Rashawn Gary, but the guy before him. I'm completely forgetting his name. But they lost him, but they got those other people, and I do think that the Browns will probably do slightly better than last year when they're playing against weaker defenses, or offenses is what I should say. And in this week specifically, I think it's just a direct mismatch. Looking at DB, I only have one recommendation because DBs, there's a lot of situations where I want to tell you guys they're going to be really good, but they're kind of gambles. So I'm going to go for the one guy that's actually seeming pretty good, and that is Talanoa Hufanga. So let's see here. So with Talanoa Hufanga, he, for the 49ers, was inconsistent. Sometimes he'd do very good. Sometimes he would do very bad. But one thing's for sure with Hufanga, he's playing for a Broncos team that has literally always been known for racking up safety volume with good tackles, good stats, guys like Justin Simmons, Brandon Jones now. The Broncos always have good fantasy safeties, and I think Talanoa Hufanga has really good awareness and is just a tackling machine in general, and actually a pretty solid ball hawk as well while he's at it. He's able to do a lot of shit that people usually don't expect out of him. So, I mean, I think worst case scenario, taking a shot on him would probably be smart. The next one I have is D-line. So I think, first of all, we're probably going to be looking at Grover Stewart, defensive tackle. He's super consistent fantasy every year. He's usually like about a 9-10 point game guy. He's like an off-brand Cam Hayward. And you take this guy if your defensive line just sucks ass and you really need someone to replace him. That's really the best way I can put him. And this week in particular, he's going up against the sorry Dolphins interior offensive line, so I think he might have a couple sacks, or maybe, not a couple sacks, a couple tackle for losses. And looking at the second guy, I have Derek Brown just a couple spots beneath him. Just a couple years ago, Derek Brown was one of the best defensive linemen in fantasy. His issue, he always gets hurt. But if he plays, he actually outplays Cam Hayward most of the time. He's like another Jeffrey Simmons if you're a Titans fan, or like a Cam Hayward. He just goes out there, racks up tackles, and helps the entire D-line in general do a lot better what he's playing. So I think in fantasy he could be really good. I'm surprised he's a free agent at this point. I think people have kind of forgot about him. Then looking at linebackers, the first one I have is Christian Roseboom from Carolina. Let me just find him real quick. That's Nate Landman. Here we go. So Christian Roseboom is actually one of the premier middle linebackers in Carolina, which really isn't saying much. That linebacker room is a mess. But, I mean, the Panthers, ever since Luke Kuechly, have almost always been known to have at least one or two really good fantasy linebackers that just rack up tackle after tackle after tackle. And I don't really think much is going to change. Also, Christian Roseboom, playing for the Rams, did the same thing. He racked up tackle after tackle and got 232 fantasy points last year. Look at that. That's 69 tackle solo, 66 assists. That's 120 tackles right there, honestly closer to 140. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Christian Roseboom is going to be a really good player moving forward in fantasy, potentially, especially if he ends up getting that role for like being the main tackler for the Panthers. There's two other guys I'd recommend for similar situations. Jack Sanborn is going into not Detroit, freaking Dallas, is going in to play for Dallas. It's either going to be Jack Sanborn or it's going to be Kenneth Murray. It's hard to say for sure as of right now. But one of the two of these guys is about to rack up a fuck ton of tackles. And Kenneth Murray actually isn't as good of a tackler as Jack Sanborn, believe it or not. So, I mean, I think I'm looking at Kenneth Murray right now and not Sanborn, but I mean, I think Sanborn, especially against run-heavy teams, might actually become the team's premier tackler over guys like Kenneth Murray. Of course, I could be wrong, but just what you need to remember is the Cowboys linebackers, whether it's guys like Leighton Vander Esch or Jalen Smith, they've always been known for having guys that just rack up tackles and aren't necessarily great linebackers. So I do think the Cowboys will probably be more likely to have success with Jack Sanborn in terms of fantasy than Kenneth Murray. And then as a bonus pick, I'll even throw in Bengals rookie linebacker Demetrius Knight Jr. Do I think he's going to be great in the NFL? No. Do I think the Bengals are stupid? Yes. Do I think their defense sucks? Absolutely. Do I think that I can say anything positive about the Bengals defense in any way? No, not at all. But at the end of the day, I think Demetrius Knight is in a very good position to go replace Jermaine Pratt as the second linebacker on the team right next to Logan Wilson. And I think even if he doesn't play very well, I think he's bound to potentially become a tackling machine if he actually gets full-time starting abilities. So keep an eye on that. If it's not Demetrius Knight, I would imagine it's going to be a guy like Dax Hill or Jordan Battle just racking up tackles. But for now, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you guys thought the quality was good, dog shit, or something in between. And if it was good, I guess we'll see you one of these upcoming days for maybe matchup of the week against Tack. Have a good one.